Yes, please. Good morning, my amazing class.
Good morning, my amazing teacher.
So if you are not here on Thursday, we reviewed writing inequalities, and we only reviewed 1 through 7. And then Friday, if you missed any of 1 through 7, you need to look back over your 8 through 13, and that's what we'll review for bell work on Friday. Get it? Got it?
Good.
So again, if you didn't see 1 through 7, there's 1 through 7. Tomorrow you need to do 8 through 13. Okay, now we're going to continue with our study guide. I do need y'all to go back to the front of your study guide. And I need you to fix something for me. I looked at the calendar incorrectly. I do need you to fix the date, if you will. Make sure you have it listed as test is on 0-12, and this needs to be back signed by 0-11. So fix that now if you want 5 points added to that test grade for Wednesday. Your test will be on Wednesday. And on your paper, that tentative plan, it does say Wednesday on there, but I do have the wrong date number on that tentative plan. So I don't know what I was looking at. Let me see if I can show y'all what I mean. So that tentative plan, that's not supposed to be a 13. That's actually supposed to be 12 because that's what Wednesday is on. So I just made that mistake. Get it? Got it? All right, so now you should have that fixed because we wrote that down yesterday. So let's get back to our lesson. I'm going to zoom in a little bit better so we can see a little bit better. But before we move on to 17, I do want to remind you what we talked about yesterday on 16. So yesterday I reminded you that a box and whisker plot shows the data split into 4 equal parts, which are called 4 quartiles. At the end of each section, we have the end of the quartiles. It would be the end of quartile 1 is going to be worth. Why did we write 25?
Because there's 4 quartiles, so each one is worth
25 what? 25 what? Percent. The reason why is that's the first quartile out of what? 4. So if you will, put that in your calculator. And some of you are like, how do I put that in your calculator? And that's the first lesson we had of 6th grade. 1 divided by 4 is? So 0.25. You learned percents the next, that first real lesson of 6th grade was dealing with percents. That if it says 0.25, that also says 25 out of 100. And if you have a number out of 100, that is also called a percent, and that's representing 25%. So all of these are equivalent. One is just written, actually 2 are written as a fraction, one's written as a decimal, and then 1 is written as a percent. Now each quartile section is broken into 25%. And we talked about the interquartile range is the end of Q1 to the end of Q3. So the end of Q1 to the end of Q3 is worth how much as a percent? 50%. Well, how much is the beginning of my whisker to Q1 worth? Thank you. That's called the lower quartile. How much is that lower quartile worth? 25%. How much is the upper quartile worth?
25.
Okay, so when I'm looking at this, that interquartile range is my box. How much is the middle box worth? 50. So it could also say the middle box is going to be 50%. So this is things that you need to know and you need to study. This was the last thing that is new to you with statistics that you need to be studying. Now, moving on, looking at 17, it says the Key Club at school made a box and whisker of the service hours reported by students. Which phrase best describes the data of the students who reported between 16.5 and 23? If you look at 16.5 on this number line, 16.5 is on what line? Q1. So Q1 is 16 point what? And then 23 is on what?
Q3.
It's on Q3. So from 16.5 to 20 what? 3. I wrote that incorrectly. That's Q1 to Q3. The end of Q1 to the end of Q3, and that's representing that box. What did we say that box is representing as percentages? Look back at what you wrote and you should have written on 16. What is that middle box?
50.
50%. That whole section from here to here is representing the middle 50% because we split that box into how many parts? That box is split into how many parts? And that's why each one of them is worth 25. And 25 plus 25 is 50. What if I asked you how much is the percent from 13 to 16.5? How much is that worth? 25%. And would that be called the middle 25? No, that would actually be called the lower because those are the smaller numbers. Now, what about from 23 to 27? How much is that worth? Upper 25. Get it? Got it? Now, looking at my next problem on 18. It has a histogram. What's another word for a histogram? Bar graph. So when I'm looking at this bar graph, this histogram, I see categories 0 to 9. There's going to be how many? 8. I've heard 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. How much is 0 to 9 worth in this bar graph?
8.
Thank you. What is it?
8.
Mm-hmm. And then 10 through 19 is what?
10.
Mm-hmm. And then 20 through what? Is worth? It's in between 6 and 8. And what's in between 6 and 8?
7.
Okay. How many students completed fewer than 20, less than 20? So which category do I not need to look at? I'm not looking at that. Now tell me how many students completed less than 20 problems?
18.
Oh, Lord help me. It's D. Get it? Got it?
Good.
Now, I told you if you see a dot plot or a line plot, what do you need to do with the data? You need to write the data out. But at the end of yesterday's lesson, I told you make sure do you technically have to write out the data, look at the answer choices and see what it's asking you to determine. So if you look at the answer choices, what is it asking us to find? Or what is it asking us to do?
Mean, median, range, quartile, lower quartile, half the data.
Okay? So guess what we are definitely going to have to do on this one?
Write out our data.
Yeah, because we got to find mean, median, mode, range, interquartile range, which is listing the upper and lower, or half the data. Now, guys, over half the data is below 94. That's a different kind of question, but the data, what's half of the data called? Half is the center, it's the exact middle. So another word for half of the data is the median. Okay, so I do want to let you know that one. So, but now go ahead and list out your data. And if you did not do that, then I'm going to go ahead and let you know that you most likely got this problem wrong because of laziness.
This is the one that I ended on like before we started going over. So I didn't really finish it.
So you're going to be finding your mean, the median, the mode, the range, the interquartile range, or do you have to technically find the interquartile range? No, what's it only asking you to find? Upper and lower. What's the lower called? Q1. And what's the upper called? So do I have to subtract those for any reason? No. Okay. So I'm going to pause the video. And y'all need to pause the video if you're watching this. So go ahead and... When you add up all the data and divide by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11... what do you get as your mean?
94.
When you do the rainbow, if you work from the outside in, you find out 95 is going to be your quartile 2, which is also called your median. That exact middle. Your mode is going to be, your range is going to be,
12.
and then we already know Q2 is 95. That means my Q1 is going to be that first what? 90. And that Q3 is going to be that 1, 2, 3, third, what? 98. So now that we know that, let's go find out what answer choices. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. Sorry.
Since you said we wouldn't really need to do the IQR, I wrote it down before you said that, and then I just didn't erase it, so I still found it.
And
it
what's
wasn't
that
hard.
IQR?
8.
98 minus 90 is
8.
8.
So
Okay.
really easy to find.
Yep. So when I'm looking at my answer choices, over half the data is below 94, which is that median. What is our median? Is it 94?
It's 95.
It's 95. So that's why that answer choice is incorrect. The lower quartile, which is Q1, is 90. Is that true?
Yes.
The mean of the data is 94. Is that true?
Yes.
The median of the data is 94. Is that true?
No.
No, it's 95. The range of the data is 12.
Yes.
The upper quartile, which is Q3, is 99. No, what was it?
98.
So B, C, and E are your answers. And we wrote on A, D, and F the reason why they weren't. So that's something that I suggest you do on your test next week, is justify why it would not be your answer. Get it? Got it? All right, moving on to number 20. Yesterday we had a practice with the histogram and with tables as answer choices. And it's when it has it listed as a table, it's easy to see how many would be in each category based off of the histogram. And it was number 15. I'm just going to show you a glance at it. You don't have to look back. So we were trying to determine on 15 yesterday which table matches the histogram, and those are more of a level 1 of a histogram question. Now you're bumping up to a level 2, and it's not as hard as what y'all want to make it. Now what I want to tell you is we need to identify how many is in each category. And you can either write that above each category, or you can write it out to the side like we did earlier on one of our first problems. How many is on 10 to 14?
2.
That's telling me I should have two numbers that are 10 to 14. Go down here and let's circle a group, a category of each data set that has numbers through 10 to 14. A has two numbers 10 to 14. You see how A has two numbers 10 to 14? B has how many numbers 10 to 14?
2.
C has how many numbers 10 to 14?
2.
D has how many numbers 10 to 14?
2.
E has how many numbers 10 to 14?
3.
4.
E? Oh. I see.
You're still cool. So guess what I could do right now just based off that first category?
X off E.
Get rid of E. Now F, 10 to 14, how many numbers?
3.
What else could I do?
X off that one out.
All right, let's make our next category. And how many is going to be in our next category?
3.
3. And those numbers range from 15 to 19. So this one has 3 numbers, 15 to 19. What about my next one? Okay. What about my next one? How about my next one?
No.
It's 4. So what do I need to do? And now my third category is going to have how many numbers in it? And that's the rest of the numbers. So I'm just going to quickly circle them. And does it have 4 numbers in that last category?
Yes. A, B, and C.
Now I would always double check to make sure it doesn't go past 24, because that means there's going to be another what? That means it's going to be another category, right? So do we have a category of 25 or more? No. And that's how last year they got some of the kiddos, because they said, oh, this data set's going to have 25 and 26, and they thought that was saying that this is going to be the rest of it, and they still ended up getting it wrong somehow. Okay, so just please be careful. Our answer here is going to be A, B, and C. Get it? Got it? All right, so looking at 21, they did a big favor for you by putting your data set from least to. I need you, and you do not have to rewrite the data out because they already put it from least to greatest. I want you to identify the minimum, the maximum, Q1, Q2, and Q3. And raise your hand if you need time to do that. Okay, so if you're watching the video, you need to be solving for that. I'm going to pause it. Okay. So looking here, my Q2 is going to be in between what two numbers?
11 and 12.
So what's my Q2 going to be?
14.
You're still cool.
I'm going on A, is it?
That's all right. And then now that I know my Q2 is in between 13 and 15, so it's 14. My Q1 is going to be in between 9 and 10.
9.5.
It'll be 9.5, and that's Q1. And then my Q3 is in between what two numbers?
20 and 24.
And what's that going to be?
22.
What's my minimum?
4.
What's my maximum?
38.
Now you have to find which Box and Whisker matches up with the data set. Which one has a minimum on 4? Which one has a minimum, a Q1 on 9.5? Which one has a Q2 on 14? Which one has a Q3 on 22? And which one has a maximum on 38? Now, a lot of you, if you start counting by ones on these tick marks, you will get it wrong because they're not counting by ones. What are they counting by? Twos. So please make sure you're going to be careful on that. Get it, got it? Get it, got it?
Good.
So, looking at this, every single one of these answer choices, the minimum and maximum is correct. So I can't use the minimum and maximum on this one to do process of elimination. But I can use Q1 to get rid of an answer choice. Because that Q1 is not on 9.5, it's on 246, it's on 6. Now I'm down to C and D, and my Q2 is every single Q2 on 14. No, this one's going to be in between 16 and 18, so that was going to be a Q2 of 17. Now my Q3, I'm looking for the one that's going to be on 22.
All of them are 22. B, C,
B is on what?
24.
So what's my answer?
C.
How do you find interquartile range?
Figure out the Q1, Q2, Q3, and then subtract Q3 and Q1.
Okay, interquartile range is Q3 minus Q1. That's the best thing about box and whisker plots. When you get this, I just need to look at my Q3 and my Q1. And remember, your Q3 and your Q1 is the beginning and end of your box. So, on A, the Q3 is going to be what number?
3.
Okay. All right. But back it up. I'm asking for not IQR yet. I'm asking for, you're still cool. I'm asking for what's Q3 going to be?
29.
What's Q1 going to be?
26.
So my IQR will be 3. Q3, 29. Q1,
23.
subtract it.
6.
That's IQR. Here we go. Y'all see the pattern. What's C, Q3?
29.
Q1,
22.
IQR.
7.
Q3,
29. Minus 26.
3. C.
if you haven't done 23, quickly read it. And thumbs up when you know what you got to do here. Oh my gosh, how long have you been in here?
1 second.
You're so sneaky. So now that I've started back the video, did you have to write out all the data for this one? No. Why? Because what is it only asking you to do? What do we call it when it's asking how many houses are on that street? All you got to do is count the X's. So count the X's, count the dots, and what's it going to be? 12. Okay. All right, looking at my next one, we have another what? Bar graph. What's another word for a bar graph? Okay. What could we do above each category? Okay. What's my first category? What's it going to be?
7.
Baked potato.
2.
Coleslaw.
4.
Macaroni salad.
5.
Green salad.
2. 3.
Whoop. What's that green salad?
2.
You're still cool. Mashed taters.
3.
So, how many students did Ian survey?
17. 23.
No, 23.
It's 23. 7 plus 2 plus 7 plus 23. 4 plus 23. I just did it on the calculator. Right?
What do you get?
23.
Flat tire. I'll be done with this video in 5 minutes. You want to wait or you need to go now? Okay. After 5 tests, a student calculates the mean test score to be 85. If the student scores a 97 on the upcoming 6 tests, what will be the student's updated mean test score? Guys, when your teacher finds your average, I'm pretending. I don't know if this is going to make 85, but I'm just pretending, okay? Let's say you made a 30 on a test. Then you made an 80, an 80, a 90, and a 100. Let's say, I'm just assuming, it's probably not true, that makes an 85 average. That 85 average turns every single one of those grades, the one you made a 30 on and the one you made a 100 on, into an 85. That's what averages do. So every single test grade, you got your progress reports yesterday, and you know your average in math, or you should. Every single thing that you've done for me turned into that average. Okay, so let's say you have a 72 average. You might have made a 100 on an assignment, but now that 100 turned to a what? 72. And that's just how it works, because you're trying to find the average of your grades. So to be able to find this, those 5 tests are what? What's that average? It says it is. That mean, what's that average? 85. So I need to put down how many 85s? Because if you only wrote down when you saw this 85 and 97 and added it together and divided by 2, you're not representing 5 numbers. You're only representing 2 numbers. Okay? Now, that's the 6th test. You make a 97. So again, if you only wrote 85 and 97, you're only representing 2 tests. That's going to change your average. How many tests do you have? 6. So now I need you to add that all up and divide by 6. How much is your grade going to increase, because that is a higher number? What do you get as your average? 87. Now, my next one, do I have to write out the data?
No.
Why would you say yes? I don't want to talk about it. It's fine. Why would we say we need to work it all out? Okay. But is it telling you your number of the interquartile range? This is coming from your statistic notes that you have to memorize. The best measure of center and variability when the data is skewed or has an outlier or is both is median and IQR. And then number 2 says the best measure of center when the data is symmetrical or normal is mean. Does it tell you anything for variability when your data is symmetrical? No, because in 7th grade you will have to know that, and that variability is called MAD. Okay? So, the best measure of center is what it's asking for. I first need to find out, is my data normal or skewed?
Skewed.
It's skewed. Do I need to know which way right now? No. But
It's skewed.
It's skewed what? Left. Now, the note also says that if it has an, it's skewed or has an outlier. Does it have an outlier? A number out there all by itself? Yes. Okay. What is the best measure of center going to be?
Median or IQR?
IQR is not a measure of center.
Median.
Not going to be mean. It doesn't say mean is the best measure of center. Median. Before you turn that paper, you need to write down this note. Yes. I'll bring it back at the end, okay? You're welcome. All right, so now looking at 27, the data shows the heights in inches of 7 family members. Which statistical measure best represents the center of the data? You can only see the best measure of data or variability based off of drawing out a graph. Here, dot plot tells you what?
No. Wait.
A dot plot tells you everything. It tells you everything. It tells you the mean, median, mode, range, interquartile range. It also tells you the shape of the data. So when it's asking for the best, we need to see the shape. If it's symmetrical, one of those measures of center is your answer. If it's skewed or has an outlier, like what we wrote on the other side, that would be your best measure of center. So let's find out about this data by drawing a dot plot. So there's going to be 164. There's going to be 168. There's going to be 172. There's going to be 166, 161, 123, and 165. What automatically tells me what kind of center I'm going to be looking at? What does it have? What does it have to tell me which measure of center I'm going to choose?
Median. No.
Okay, go back and look at your note that you wrote on the other side.
Median.
Why?
Because it says the best measure of center is median.
Why?
No, it can't be because it doesn't have a thing.
I asked why.
It doesn't have a.
When skewed or outlier.
Or an outlier.
But it doesn't have.
It does. 23. Oh, or 72.
23 is an outlier. So when the data is skewed or an outlier, the best measure of center is, well guys, B is my answer on that one. Now 28 is the same data set, but instead of asking for the best measure of center, it says the best represents the spread of the data. What's another word for spread?
Range.
What?
Interquartile.
But no variability.
It means range and interquartile range, but what are both of those called?
Variability.
Variability.
We already said that this dot plot has a what?
Outlier. An outlier.
We already said it has a what?
Outlier.
So if you look back at your note, it's going to tell you what's the best measure of variability when you have an outlier.
IQR.
What is the best measure of variability when you have an outlier?
Interquartile range.
Interquartile range, IQ.
R.
Now, I'm not done with you. This is the last thing I'm going to ask you to do. I want you to find the mean of all of those numbers right now. Find the mean of all of those numbers right now. And I'm going to say that's your math average right now. We're going to pretend that that's our math average right now. What's my mean?
401.
Wait, 59.8. I got 59.8.
Add it again. Flat tire. What's my answer?
69.1.
Nope.
60, 61.
Nope.
63.
Nope. No, it's not hard. You're not adding it. You're not looking at your data set.
59. I got 59.8. I got 59.857142. 73.3. No.
419. I got 59.8.
857,142.
That's what I did get.
I said no.
I'm hearing multiple different what?
Numbers.
Now, if that's your grade, 59.8 rounds to a what?
60.
What if I asked you to drop the lowest grade? What are you going to do?
Drop the 23.
Okay, well, would you still divide by 7 numbers?
No, 6.
6, because you dropped that lowest.
Grade.
Find the new mean. Drop 23. And the new mean is going to be, let's find out.
66.
66.
Look how many points that went up by just dropping the lowest grade. Now, add 100. Yep, that would be an outlier. That would be an outlier. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in 61 plus 64 plus 65 plus 66 plus 68 plus 72 plus what? 100. And now I'm back to 7 grades. What does that 100 bring you up to?
70.8.
And what does that round up to?
71.
So if your teacher, this is real world right now for a lot of you in this classroom right now. You might be failing. I drop your lowest grade. It goes up 6. You do your homework. You get a what? 100. How many points did that bring you up to? From a 66 to a 71. How many points is that? 5 points. Do you see how much 100s can help you?
Yes. So try your best
Now,
at everything.
I'm not doing it right now, but if I asked you to add a 0 to this, you know what? You are going to do it. Add a 0 to the data and find the mean. I want y'all to see what happens when you get a 0. Okay? So that 23 is no longer there. Now we got a 0. So this is how I know what I'm going to be adding up.
Do we keep the 100 or drop
Yep,
it?
keep the 100. Keep that 100. 0 plus 61 plus 64 plus 65 plus 66 plus 68 plus 72 plus 100. And I do not divide by 7. I divide by what?
6.
8.
8. Divide by 8 because there's 8 dots.
Oh,
71.5.
Yo, a 0 can drop your average.
You were at a 71 and now you're at a
62.
make another 0. It's going to drop about that same amount. So my point is to you, you need to be making sure you're doing these easy daily grades. Now, my point comes to the memorization on the statistical notes. If you add or remove a number from the data, it could change the measures of center, which is mean, median, mode, and the measures of variability. Extreme outliers, and what were our extreme outliers in this data set?
23 and 0.
Okay, and what else was an outlier? Those are extreme outliers. Have a direct effect on the mean, which is your average, and the range. So you saw, based off of what we worked out here, how dropping a grade changes it. By adding a grade, 100 changes it, and then adding another outlier will also change it. Get it? Got it? So that's our lesson for today. You get it? Got it?